How's it going, dudes? So you want to overthrow your existing government, but not via a traditional method. To keep the violence low, you've agreed to take on the various interested parties in a hidden role game. But what should you do in order to maximize both strategic thinking and fun for everyone? Why, you should launch a Coup, of course! Coup is the 2012 smash hit card game where you attempt to eliminate your friend's influence in order to exile them and seize absolute power. Coup was vehemently popular when it released, and still enjoys a large fan base today, in part due to how simple it is to play but how deep everything is beneath the surface. So with a lot to cover, let's jump into the world of Coup by first looking into the game's lore. Yes, as some might not realize, Coup has a lot of fierce lore behind it, so in order to set the mood and get us in the game spirit, let's look into the story and see what our beloved characters are up to. In the not too distant future, the government is run for profit by a new royal class of multinational CEOs. Their greed and absolute control of the economy has reduced all but a privileged few to lives of poverty and desperation. Out of the oppressed masses rose an underground band of partisan fighters focused on overthrowing these powerful rulers. The valiant efforts of these rebels have created discord, intrigue, and weakness in the political courts of the Nouveau Royal, bringing the government to the brink of collapse. But for you, a powerful government official, this is your opportunity to manipulate, bribe, and bluff your way into absolute power. To be successful, you must destroy the influence of your rivals and drive them into exile. In these turbulent times, there is only room for one to survive. Yes, for those that didn't do the required reading, you and your friends spend Coup playing as the bad guys, taking advantage of a rebellion to take out your political opponents and seize more power for yourself. So now that we've established that you are just a right jerk, how do you go about disposing of your friends? Coup works like this. Each player gets 2 coins and 2 secret characters that work for them, called Influence, who I'm now calling influencers from now on because it makes me giggle, which each carry their own special powers. In the middle of the players is the bank of the remaining coins and characters, and players will attempt to use their influencers to gain enough money to launch a coup, an unstoppable move that will allow you to take out another player's influencer of your choice. Once a player loses both of their influencers, they flee into exile and are eliminated from the game. Last man standing wins. While I'll go over our wacky cast of characters soon, I first want to bring up the standout feature of Coup. See, if you don't like the characters you were dealt, then you aren't out of options, as when your friend asks you what you got, you can look him dead in the eye and lie right to his big fat face. You can lie about pretty much anything in this game. Want to take more money but you're not the Duke? Lie and just say you are. Someone got a fat pocket full of cash and you want to take it from them but you don't have the captain to do it? Lie and just take some anyway. Despite only having 2 influencers, you have full access to the entire power pool at any time as long as you have the gall to lie about having that character. But be careful, as just like in real life, if you get caught in a lie, you are going to be in some serious trouble. While any action can be lied about, any action can also be challenged by another player. If someone thinks you are lying, they have the option to offer an official challenge, which will force you to prove that you were telling the truth by revealing that you actually have that character, with a penalty being given out if you do not. If you can prove that you have that specific character, the player that accused you of lying takes the penalty instead. An official challenge is a massive deal, as since actions can only be challenged right after they happened, this will bring the game to a halt, and usually requires 1 or 2 confirmations of, "Are you sure you want to challenge?" before it goes through. This is because that penalty I mentioned before isn't some small fine, as whoever loses an official challenge now has to choose which of their influencers up and dies for it. This makes randomly accusing someone of lying an extremely dangerous move, as if you are wrong, you have now halved your total lifespan, and if you only have 1 character left, 1 wrong accusation or 1 bad lie could end your game. The person you falsely accused isn't even worse off for it, as after they show you proof of no fibbage, they shuffle the character they revealed into the remaining roles and draw a new one. So even if they didn't draw the character they had before, they can just lie and say they did. The massive penalty for being wrong makes lying rampant in the game, as yeah, that guy's probably not who he says he is, but are you really sure enough about it to take that risk? Now that you know you can be anyone, anytime, anywhere, let's take a look at the cast and see who you'll want to pretend to be during the game. I'll be going over our 5 characters in order of what I believe to be best to worst, taking into account their usefulness both while you have them and while you're pretending to be them, as well as how versatile that character's actions can be. Our number 1 character is probably the most well-known from the group because of how often everyone hears his name while they play, the Duke. The Duke deals in only one thing, and that is cold hard ISK. See, players can only take one action during their turn, and there are 3 basic actions any player can take outside of the rolls. If they don't want to try to use a power, they can either take 1 coin from the middle as income, take 2 coins from the middle with foreign aid, or launch a coup by spending 7 coins. During their turn, a Duke can use his power of tax, which allows that player to instead take 3 coins from the middle, triple the amount of the standard income. This means that a player claiming Duke will reach coup range way faster than other players, and can actually launch a coup twice to eliminate a player before someone claiming income can even do it once. But Cam, you may say, what about foreign aid? What about foreign aid? Foreign aid is practically useless. Heck, it might be less than useless. Anyone that tries to claim foreign aid is an outright fool, because the Duke has a secondary passive effect where he can block any attempt to take foreign aid, instead leaving that player with nothing. Of course, this will only be an issue if someone is claiming to be the Duke, and how often will that be happening? Literally the entire game. The Duke is by far the most faked character in the entire game, due to how easy it is to get away with it if you go right from the start. Turn 1, nobody has any information except their own hand to go off of, so if you say, I'm the Duke, and take 3 coins to start, the only way you're getting challenged is if someone goes in blind. I'm the Duke is probably the most repeated phrase in the game. However, while powerful, the Duke is not invincible, as after dominating the early game, the Duke may begin to struggle towards the end. If a Duke is backed up by another role, then he is practically untouchable. But on his own, the Duke's only play available is to continue to rush for coups, and depending on what your opponents say they have, you could end up getting locked down. But seeing the massive advantage the Duke provides, the ability to completely negate a game mechanic, and how easy it is to get away with lying to be him since everyone else is doing it too, makes him the top pick for best character in the game. But right behind the Duke is a character that is much less faked, yet one that in quite a few situations not only matches the Duke in power, but outright beats him, the Captain. The Captain is one of 2 characters that can attack other players, but while the other attacks their life, the Captain goes after their wallet. During his turn, a Captain can use Steal, which will allow him to take 2 coins from another player, earning him 1 more than income and preventing him from falling for the foreign aid scam. But this is only one of the Captain's talents, as he also comes equipped with a passive ability, for if someone attempts to steal from you, the Captain can block any steal attempt. This block can also be used on other players, so if someone else is being stolen from, you can say "nuh-uh-uh" and return their money to them, which could be used to build trust. Do be careful about blocking other Captain's operations though, as they could do the same right back to you. The Captain is alright in the early game. He is likely going to get blocked at this stage until he finds a valid target, but where he shines is in the late game, where he has the opportunity to take full control over the game. See, when the coups start flying, the Dukes are going to be the first targets. Meanwhile, the one guy mad at you for stealing from him all game can't do anything about it because he's poor and sad. Defenses have fallen and everyone is either now out or only has 1 character left. And anyone that doesn't have a captain or an ambassador now is screwed. These 2 can't even make money faster than you can take it from them, so they're just non-factors. The Duke can now barely make money on his turn, as his 3 now turns into 1 after you're finished with him. And the ambassador now has the privilege of choosing who kills him. The captain forces the group to play around him in the end game, made even better by the fact that you don't even need the card to do this. If you've been committed to the bit, everyone will just believe that you have it until you switch it up on them with the card you actually have. The captain is an offensive and defensive menace, with his only flaws being his pretty weak early game and how it's a lot harder to get away with a captain lie if you didn't commit early, when he won't be as powerful as, say, a duke. But I'd say, all things considered, these two are pretty close in terms of power. Dropping a bit on the scale, we have our third best character, the Ambassador. As mentioned before, the Ambassador's main draw is his passive ability, which he shares with the captain, the ability to block stealing. It shares the same functionality, but is much more suited to being used to help others, since an angry captain that just got his steal blocked can't do anything back at you. Oh, you're mad? What you gonna do, take my money? Prevent me from stealing? I'm the Ambassador, moron! Diplomatic immunity! Instead of an offensive approach for his main power, the Ambassador elects to try a different approach, as his exchange allows him to take 2 of the roll cards in the middle, mix them with his rolls, and then return 2 back. This obviously seems counterproductive, being the main draw of the character is, oh boy, the Ambassador, now I can get something else! But those that know the tricks of the trade are aware of the true strength of exchange: gathering information. There are only 3 copies of each character, so if you look through the roll pile in the middle with exchange, you'll be able to piece together how many of each roll are actually in players' hands, which could come in very handy when rolls start getting eliminated. If 2 captains are dead and one of them is face down in the middle, no amount of long-term captain role-playing is going to save someone from your hammer of truth. Of course, this strategy does have its flaws as well. If anyone else pulls an exchange, you are now in possession of old, outdated information that might now be wrong, and all those turns that you've spent gaining knowledge are turns that other players have spent getting their money up. Sure, that 360 no-scope captain challenge was awesome, but it's not really going to help you against the Duke with a small fortune ready to launch a generational coup on your household. The Ambassador is a flashy, high-skill character with some great defensive options, but once you've used him up, exchanging into a better character might not be the worst idea. Our last 2 are noticeably weaker than the rest of the field, but still carry enough utility that I'd hesitate to call them bad. Not saying that I wouldn't, just that I'd hesitate. The title of 4th best character is given lovingly to the Assassin, the only character besides the captain that has the power to attack other players. Take a wild guess what she does. The Assassin's power is Assassinate, which allows her to pay 3 coins to force a player to lose one of their influencers. This is a stellar deal, less than half of what a coup costs for the same result, and can come in clutch at the end game where funds are sure to be running low. However, the Assassin comes with a couple major drawbacks that hold her back from being an always viable option. The first is that her Assassinate ability is all she has. She does not come equipped with a passive. This is an issue for the Assassin, as while her ability is good, the other characters have good abilities and some passive effect on top of it to make them more versatile. What you see is all you get here. In addition to that, she does grant you the ability to use another takeout option, but she doesn't help you get there. You are going to need the money to pay the Assassin somehow. Now, if you have another character that can help you do that, it won't be an issue. But if she is by herself, she is likely going to get outpaced by the Duke or Captain locked into submission, at which point her power is useless. Well, even more useless, because on top of all of these negatives, the worst one by far is that her entire assassination attempt can be blocked by the Contessa. This is a huge issue for the Assassin, as not only have you just spent your coins to launch an attack, you are now responsible for deciding whether or not a person is lying when they try to block you. What should have been a triumphant takedown can very easily turn into a loss of money and or life, as if you say they don't have a Contessa and they do, that's a lost challenge and a penalty. If you do decide to not risk it and back off, you don't get your money back, so you're in a worse position than when you started. You can't be mad. The sign says no refunds. The Assassin is just so tragic because by using her power, you are directly putting yourself at risk of losing a character. But at the same time, by choosing your targets carefully, you can ensure a cheap takedown. That combined with her being the only character that can perform the insta-kill maneuver puts her right above our last place character. And that bottom character, as you probably have gathered, is the Contessa. Strange how they picked the worst one for the cover art, but to be fair, she is looking fire in this picture. The Contessa is the other half of the assassination gambit, as her passive ability is a defensive maneuver that blocks assassination attempts. This is a great bonus, as it not only prevents you from falling prey to a quick takedown that you didn't see coming, but could also turn the play around and cause that player to lose a character if they don't believe you. This is a pretty good defensive passive, one that won't come up as often as blocking stealing, but you'll be glad to have it when it's needed. But it is just the passive ability, so let's see what the Contessa can do during your turn to help swing the game in your favor. Well, that explains the last place. The Contessa is a purely defensive option, as she possesses no power outside of her defensive passive. And while defense wins championships, offense is what gets you there. This power is nice and all, but only blocks the assassination attempt, which is a much more niche option than the standard elimination method due to its high risk. These two chumps are over here playing their own little game of cat and mouse, meanwhile everyone else is just like, Coup? She can't stop the coup, she can't help you get to the coup, and she can't protect you from anyone except the other weakest character. The Contessa is the designated liar card. When you have her, you have to lie and say you have someone else and hope you do a good enough job. So as the designated liar card, does it function better when you lie and say you have the Contessa to stop the assassin? No, it's probably worse. The Contessa is the only character whose risk-reward score for a lie is probably in the negatives, as she is the only character who is vulnerable to the assassin insta-kill. Technically, anyone can fall victim to this if they wrongly accuse the attacker of lying about having the assassin, but the Contessa has a second way to trigger it if you lie about being the Contessa and the assassin calls you out. Since you don't actually have the Contessa, you get penalized for losing the challenge. So not only do you lose a character for that, but since you can't stop the assassination attempt, it goes through and you lose another character, eliminating you from the game in just one turn. This is the craziest play in the game. Pulling this off, you feel like an absolute genius. Getting hit by this, you feel like an absolute brainlet. So the Contessa carries little actual usability, and lying to use her carries more risk than reward. Sounds like a last place finisher to me, but there's what's great about Coup. Even though the Contessa is beyond niche in its usefulness, when it hits hard. Pulling off a successful block is devastating to an assassin player, and even the assassin, a niche removal option in herself, can easily take out any of the characters I ranked above her with just 3 coins, and can even insta-kill a player if they doubt her. I've never seen a game with such defined tiers of its characters be so balanced in its gameplay, as pretty much any game is going to come down to how skillfully the players maneuver through the ever-changing game state. To close us out, I'll go over some strategies you may want to implement into your game so that you can give yourself the best chance to take total control. Of course, the most common starting play is to claim the Duke. Everyone will be going for it, so it will be nearly impossible to tell who actually has it. But if you're looking for a different turn 1 play, go for the Captain even if you don't have it. Since everyone will be focused on going Duke, a Captain play will be pretty inconspicuous. Even if your steal gets blocked, any real captains know that trying to steal from you would be a wasted turn, and it can help build rapport if you want to attempt to use the Captain later in the game. Even better is if you actually have a Duke. You can go turn 1 lie Captain and turn 2 truth Duke. People will be suspicious of why you didn't Duke first turn, and your double bluff could end up tricking some schmuck into losing a Duke challenge. Quick early lead, and with the reset, now nobody knows what you do and don't have. If you start off with the Ambassador, you have quite a wide range of options at your disposal to start the game. You could go for one of the 2 power starters and keep your Ambassador hidden for a surprise steal block. You could use your Ambassador immediately to start gaining intel or to grab a different role. You'll be outing yourself as not having a Duke or Captain this way, but you could get one on the swap, pretend to get one on the swap, or have had one all along for the double bluff. Another option for you is to block a first round steal attempt. This could earn you some brownie points with whoever you helped, and a mutual alliance could form from it. The Ambassador is very versatile with his skill set, so don't relegate him to just being the swap guy. So you've started the game with 2 Contessas. You promised this wouldn't happen! Don't worry, there is an easy out to this hopeless situation: the turn 1 Ambassador. Everyone else will be aiming high for their plays, so you going for a turn 1 Ambassador play shows that you are desperate to get some better characters. But no one knows just how desperate. No one is going to suspect that you're faking an ambassador this early, and if they do, are they really going to risk one of their 2 lives on a turn 1 ambassador play, or are they going to save that for when they have a more concrete callout? You walk away from a hopeless situation with the status of no one knowing what you have, the chance of getting some better rolls, and the knowledge of it being very unlikely that anyone claiming they have a Contessa actually having one. There are a lot of options for first turn plays, but one that you should almost never do on your first turn is taking the 1 coin income. Taking 1 ISK coin on your first turn puts you behind anyone that duked, any captain that managed to steal, and communicates to the group that you have neither of those characters. In fact, since you didn't use the ambassador that turn, it's likely that you don't have him either, so you are now not only behind, but have a massive target on your back for any captains in the area. This move isn't totally useless though, as it could function as the start of a double bluff, where you set up that you've got nothing even though you do, then use one of those characters in the future to try to trick someone into thinking they've caught you in a lie. This is a lot of setup for a double bluff though, and still leaves you in a disadvantaged state compared to everyone else, so this will mainly only function as a style play. Coup is a very small but deep game that rewards thinking on your toes and manipulating your friends through deceit, and does that well with surprisingly balanced gameplay and a setup ripe for producing memorable moments. There's so much left to talk about from the Coup brand. The expansion Reformation, which adds a team-based element, the standalone spin-off G54, which adds different roles to the factions, or its expansion Anarchy, which adds a social media card power. Unfortunately, I'm out of time though, so if you'd like to see those covered in the future, be sure to let me know how much you'd like to see them with a creative analogy. As for me, I'm off to go regain my sovereign status. I've been workshopping the new foolproof Contessa triple bluff, so I'll keep you posted on how the match of the millennium goes. Signing off for a peaceful hostile takeover, I am Cam Sandwich. Thank you for watching and have a fantastic day. A special thank you to my suppliers, staff, and chefs over at the deli. If you'd like to join the crew, you can take a look using the link in the description below.